Everybody, it's Jeremy. Welcome back to Lucid's 2022 Tournament Game 4, where we are playing Nazca. This is turn 57. Hey, yeah. Alright. We're getting closer and closer to that scary turn 60, where, in theory, War with Vanheim begins. And we might die. So, let's see what we're doing in preparation of that, right? So, to kick things off, we have a throne. Zelia the Muse has claimed the Silver Throne in the name of Capslock the Harvester, Master of Terror, the self-created master. This is Arco taking the Silver Throne. And I've talked about it, a time or two about how, because I didn't take good enough notes. I apologize. I'm trying to get better at that, of taking specific notes on developments in the game, so that what I'm reporting on isn't just hearsay or I think that type of scenario. Specifically on things like diplomacy, turns that diplomacy happens on. But also player activity, right? Obviously, I'm not here to spread players' business, etc., etc. But I did mention previously that, certain things matter, and I mentioned previously that it is around this time in the game that the Arcocephalan player and the Pelagian player had to sub out, right? And so the Arcocephalan sub is, I don't know if this has actually happened yet in the game, because again, I didn't take really good notes, but it's about to happen or has just recently happened, and the previous Arco player has been doing a great job, right? Has had relatively successful wars, not like super convincing wars, but relatively successful wars, defended themselves well, defended their coastline well from Pelagia, etc., etc., and left their nation in a good state for a good sub to come in and do good things with, and that sub is Stone Troll. So things have gotten fortunately on the other side of the world from me, so not that there's any enmity or anything. I don't know if Stone Troll even knows who I am outside of this particular game, but I have heard plenty of things about Stone Troll throughout my time in the Dominions community, and that's enough to make me go, uh-oh. Right? Like, that's enough to make me be like, oh shit, I'm not looking forward to that one. Yeah, that is what it is. So seeing Arco take a throne, cool. Yeah, moving onwards. And the reason I say cool is because, right, like, we're not like, ooh, yay, Arco got a throne, but anyone who is holding thrones right now, that is not, honestly, Ulm or Vanheim, right, is kind of a deal for us, right? Because no one else is really close, but those two are kind of inching towards that potential problems. So moving on, we've got some site searching. We didn't have the greatest site searching turn last turn. We got the glowing hill, right? But we, hopefully, right, we will have a better one this turn. We're done with our dark knowledges. No more chance of death income coming in. But we have been getting really lucky on water. Maybe that matters. Voice of Apsu found nothing. Arcane Probing found nothing. Voice of Apsu found a Weeping Stone. That's a +1 water site. Nice. Another Voice of Apsu found nothing. Augury found nothing. Arcane Probing found an Enchanted Gate. Okay, that is a +1 Astral Pearl. Nice. Another Voice of Apsu found another Weeping Stone. Okay, good. +1 water. Gnomelore found a Deep Crevasse. Cool, that's +1 Earth. And Haruspex found nothing. So, for a total of site searching this turn, water +2 per turn, Earth +1 per turn, and Astral +1 per turn. That's pretty solid. That's why we do the site searching like this, is because we get a bunch of like, oh, that's a crappy turn, or oh, we got 1, okay, whatever, right? And then we get 4, right? Or we get a really cool magic side or something like that. So this will mean in the long run, right? Like we're spending a lot of gems, but we are accruing a income faster or more mage efficient, right? With our searching, rather than research efficient or gem efficient. So it is what it is. I guess technically it's more research efficient if you're more mage efficient, but you get what I'm saying, right? So this is good. This is good. Good. We're getting a lot of astral, like to the point to where I'm really. If I didn't have to do a few things, very specific things, I think we have such a large astral income that I would actually consider trying to make a play for either like Arcane Nexus or Wish Spam, right? The reason why I'm not immediately like, yeah, right, is because we do have a very high astral god, right? We have a 6 astral god, which means we can very easily boost into astral 9. Very easily, right? I say very easily. But in order to do that, it's very easy for us to do it, but it is costly, right? Because it will take a Starshine or Starshine Skull Cap. Starshine Skull Cap? Starshine? No. That's not the word. No, it is. My god, my brain was just like, that's not correct, but it totally was. A Starshine Skullcap, the Crystal Coin, right? And then like a ring of sorcery or wizardry, right? And it's that ring of sorcery or wizardry that is very costly. In and of itself, that would be fine. We could turn off Huaka production, and we could just be like, okay, we've got, 16 or 17 astral pearls per turn. We can just start to accrue that and start running up, towards Nexus or towards Wish and just go from there, right? That does mean we lose our Huakas, which is, I think, a power point, which is sad to lose. But it gets us a different power point, right? But that's a super greedy power point to go for that, right? Huakas at this point are at least actual combat power for us. But, Arcane Nexus, a very high overcast of Arcane Nexus, or a very, like continuous wish casting, or pretty consistent wish casting, could be pretty amazing for us. However, we've got a couple, like I said, we got a couple things that are kind of limiting us. One is how much it would cost us to get to that point. So, it would cost another 60 at least astral pearls, which we have over 200, so that's not that big of a deal. But we got something else. We will talk about that here in just a second. I say just a second. We'll talk about that when we get down to forging, which is actually one of the last things we're going to be talking about. So, no battles this turn. At least no battles that we participated in, and no battles that we caught, that we got to witness. So that's unfortunate. And then we've got a couple of events. We got an unexpected event in Omia, a handful of magic gems, so we get some death gems. And then in Klon, some squires have been caught and interrogated. They seem to have been preparing for a large-scale attack. So I'm actually going to count this as 0 negative and 2 positive, because I'm gonna. You don't always get a warning, right? Or do you always get a warning? Is the warning in and of itself a trigger on the actual attack, right? Like, can you get an attack without getting a warning? Does getting a warning mean that negative event has fired? You know what? That's a weird way of thinking about it. I don't know, right? Like, I'm not sure if you can. I think you. Someone hit me up in the comments. Somebody with better knowledge of the game, let me know. Can you get a random, like a barbarian attack or a knight attack or like a troglodyte attack or something like that, a villain attack? You can totally get those things without getting the event warning, right? Right? Which would mean that getting the warning is actually a positive event because you're getting warned so that you can do something. I'm going to look at it that way until someone in the comment tells me, actually, if you get the warning, it's basically a negative event because the whole thing is tied together, right? Hmm. Hmm. It would have to be. It would have to be for me to consider it to not be a positive event, right? It would have to be that you can't get attacked without a warning because it's the same chain, right? So you get the warning and it is the chain. Blah 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 blah. Anyways, let's let's go on. So that means we have for events this turn we have 0 negative, 2 positive. I'll count that as 2 positive for now. Klon, we got an attack warning, and we got death gems +3. Easy peasy. Easy to peasy. Bunch of diseases getting cured, some afflictions getting cured, bunch of patrolling happening. We are starving in Satrandith again, of course, because we moved in a bunch of units, and now we have even more people diseased and afflicted than we did previously. But you know what? That's just how we roll. Fuck it. Don't care. I really don't care at this point. Like, I should, but we have so much going on here that this doesn't matter as much to me, especially considering we've already got the things in position to continuously keep it getting fixed, right? So, yeah, we've got 6 disease cures here. Like, I will say this is part of the thing. I was hoping to use my Mama Pacha to heal afflictions like Weakened off of our werewolf, but because we have all of these afflictions, it looks like she's prioritizing them. So that is of concern, but what we could do is we could just move these out of the province whenever we're like, no, we really want to focus in on these commanders to remove their afflictions or what have you. Or we could move her and the commanders into the capital. Anyways, it doesn't matter. So there's that. And yeah. What are we doing this turn? Not a lot, honestly. There is very little going on from a logistics standpoint. It's turn 57. We have 3 turns before attack orders can be issued, basically. Or I guess, counting this turn, 59, right? So, mostly we are just maneuvering around and trying to put people in places. So there are a couple specific places. You can see we're moving a lot out of Olifa. What we are moving out of Olifa is actually Hydromancers, so we have our Boots of the Messenger on them to try to cover ground more quickly. We're sending one to the capital. We're actually sending the one that's in the capital down to Satrandith. The one in the capital is ferrying some units, just taking them on down. And then this one is heading down south. We are going to have a spread of our Hydromancers because Hydromancers can actually do a couple of pretty nice things for us. Nope. Oh, well, they can't do Frozen Heart for us right now, but they could if we got to that. They can do things like summon Water Elementals. Water Elementals actually can kind of really fuck up thugs. But we actually have a different plan for some of these Hydromancers. Some of them might be assisting in defense, province defense, right? Versus thugs and things like that. Just kind of trying to vary what we have on the field so that if we get hit with certain things, Van's like, oh shit, I wasn't expecting that. Or, oh shit, I wasn't prepared for that. Or what have you, right? But they're going to have a more specific role, a little combat trick that we're going to probably start next turn. So I'll save it for that turn to actually talk about. But yeah, we're just spreading those out over our empire. We've got a little bit of movement. We're going to be moving some Really? Oh, right. Yeah, we're moving this guy up to, because the Pakwo, right, can only lead a few living units, and he has a very bad leadership penalty. So we're actually going to send the this Karaka up here to lead these wolves, and he's going to have the Scepter of Authority for combustion. Again, we're just kind of throwing out little things into various provinces, right? Probably not going to matter, right? Because pretty sure the Van Heers have, or the Vanheim's Bless has fire resistance on it. But in case he sends something that is not that into Pack Woods, this guy could potentially burn it. It could potentially get downed by some hard-biting direwolves, etc., etc. Basically, just trying to spread little ideas of province defense around here or there. Most of these are probably going to be relatively simple or ineffectual, but the right thing in the right position, right? A Baraka with a fucking golden arbalest might hit something and be like, oh shit, was not prepared for that, right? You know, so we'll see how it goes. Anyways, mostly simple stuff there, nothing too terribly big. Let's talk about some of the bigger movements that are happening on the field. Jotunheim is almost all but gone, right? The battles that happened there last turn have basically sealed the death of Jotunheim. Van is very quickly trying to finish off any remaining resistance, any last pockets. I think the only thing that remains now is Jotunheim's cap, which should fall before we hit that turn 60 mark. Which means that for Vanheim, right, like, hopefully he can just face off against Ulm and I. We've also been talking to Arco kind of about the Van threat, but Arco is also concerned about Ulm as the Ulmish threat, right? Ulm is moving on Vanheim. Theoretically, both from the south, from the north, and from the east, right? So, in point of fact, Ulm is actually going to be moving through some of our territories in an effort to kind of keep Vanheim guessing, right? So, Ulm's gonna move towards Vanheim lands basically a turn or so before we go, but it should all be around turn 60. Okay? Anything else big to talk about from a different perspective? I think it is at this point in the game that there is very little Naba, I believe. Wonders of the world. Strong independent. I think it is at this point that, or the last couple turns, that Arco has been basically putting Naba down. And it's turning rapidly into a situation of where there's a very minor Vanarus, right? A decently strong Arco. A oddly strong but not strong Pelagia, right? Because Pelagia keeps throwing themselves against like Vanarus, against Arco, so they're very strong in what they have territorial-wise. But they keep taking heavy losses, right? If that makes sense. And then we have a strong Van and a strong Ulm, with the Ulm kind of being in their power spike and Van just being a very strong nation, period. And then we have me, who is trying to make the game last another 30 turns. So, It's a very strange situation, but what I'm expecting over the course of the next couple turns is war is going to happen with Van. Ulm is going to hopefully do the majority of the heavy lifting. We might be able to get Arco into the mix. The problem is I'm not sure if it's going to be a straight-up war, an actual war, or if Van is going to go for a throne rush, or if Ulm is going to go for a throne rush. And so everyone's kind of on edge with Ulm having 2 thrones, but also having control of the Throne of Death, so really 3 thrones, and then Van having 2 thrones, right? So it's a very weird situation. Let's talk about a recruitment. We are recruiting all over the place, and I actually kind of want to show some of this. We're recruiting in a number of locations. Pakwo down there. I think there's a Pakwo up here. Yep. Getting more in this location. So recruitment for the turn, we actually have 2 Pakwo of the Mountains Spirits, 1 Malkwe Priest, 1 Huron Priest, 1 Inca, 5 Sun Guard, and 2 Dinyashis. And I kind of want to talk about what we're doing with that. Because this is going to go into our Hydromancer play, right? Into why we're moving our Hydromancers around and what we're intending on doing with them. We already have a whole bunch of Pakwos down here in Satrandath. Having so many Pakwos in a single province is a little dangerous because they're heretics. So we're basically killing our Dominion here, and it's making our Dominion not be able to spread into a lot of different locations. So it's a little punishing. We don't want them here forever. Obviously, we've got this stack that we're trying to get rid of the diseases on. Great, fantastic. Eventually, hopefully, we'll be able to pull them out and put them in other locations, right? But these guys aren't exactly great researchers, and they're not the craziest of spellcasters. So what are we going to do with them when we put them elsewhere? And what are we going to do with them in 3 turns, really? So with a Thistle Mace, they do become Nature 2. That is more valuable to us. That can do a couple of different things, but we don't want to produce 15,000 Thistle Maces just so that we can have Pakwos be slightly useful in certain situations, right? Throw out... Actually, we don't even have like wooden warriors for them to be able to throw out, but we could get to that very easily, right? So what's kind of the plan with them? Well, the plan is that we're probably going to use a couple of different little combat tricks that we can try to put together. We are going to probably do some... Oh, is that not it? Is it? Yeah, we're probably going to do some Vile Water summoning, right? So Vile Water summons a Gelatinous Cube. Gelatinous Cubes are kind of interesting little creatures. They have... Here, let me pull it up in the Dom Inspector. I said I wasn't going to talk about this until we actually did it, and now I'm super talking about it. But... maybe I won't go super in depth. We'll talk more about it in the next couple turns as we're actually enacting the strategy. How about that? Suffice to say is we're gonna summon Vile Water or Gelatinous Cubes via Vile Water on our Hydromancers, right? And then we're going to use we're gonna throw some of our Pakwos into random provinces, right? And our Pakwos have, because of their Air 1, Nature 1, they have a very interesting ability that they can do, right? Like, they can cast Enlarge and they can cast Gift of Flight. So, Enlarge is a Nature 2 scenario, which in AoE 1, right, will increase the size of a creature by 1, okay? And then Gift of Flight, obviously, is the, Air 2, you can give something flight. So, also Area of Effect 1. So what we can do with this, right, is we can take a Gelatinous Cube and we can basically enlarge it, right? And it's already a size 4, so it'll go up to a size 5. And then we can give it flight, and we can have it attack rear. So this is a combat trick. Probably a lot of people are familiar with it now from the tournament, the 2021 tournament finals, I think, is where a lot of it happened. I can't remember who was doing it. A bunch of it, I think, was either like, I don't know, Vanheim or Pan or Arcocephale, or not Arcocephale, but Arco the player, playing as Pelagio. Someone was doing a lot of it, I believe, and I think that's probably where most players are going to know it from, or maybe not most players, but a lot of people who watch are probably going to know that from. But this is something that you can find in a couple little games here or there. It's growing in popularity, the usage of gelatinous cubes. You see it every once in a while. I actually saw it in one of the very first games I played, and it was not fun. But the thing is that these gelatinous cubes can just eat something, right? If it's smaller than them, they can just eat it, basically. And that is going to be a big deal, potentially, for catching out a couple of Van Jarls, both. Van Jarl, Van Heers, yeah, both. I was correct. Okay, so yeah, that's just something that, that's a little combat trip. So that's kind of on the concept of throwing a Karaka here with a crossbow, throwing a, Karaka here with a scepter, throwing, a little pack of sacreds with something going on there, throwing a Paco of the Mountain Spirits with a gelatinous cube, right? Like, the idea is we're just going to try to diversify defenses across our empire and make it annoying or potentially costly for Van to raid us, right? That's the idea. So yeah, we'll go more in depth with that when we actually start doing some of that stuff. But for now, let's move on to Nazcan recruits. So, Nazcan recruits for the turn. We actually only got 43 Haten Runa this turn, which is quite a bit less than we have been getting. I think it's primarily because the population is just getting burned to shit, but we'll see. Then we also have 105 Long Dead Warriors, we have 9 Supayas, and we have 1 Summon Huaka for 7 Huakas. So yeah, I kind of gushed, I think, last time about this, but it's nice to kind of feel like we're getting to that point where things are, kind of like looking up, or being at the point to where it feels like the calling, the reanimation, etc., the summon Huakas, etc., all is starting to really matter and add together to where we're building these large amounts of usable combat options, right? And it's also just very exciting that we broke 100. We broke 100 Long Dead reanimated this turn, so that's pretty cool. Looking forward to that 200 mark, right? That's the next goal. So we'll see how that goes. Next up, we've got some special recruits. We got our requisite Dire Wolf over here, and we actually have, I have forgotten to talk about this, but we actually have, this is our 3rd turn of Dustwalkers. So I've gone back and I've put the Dustwalker into some of the previous videos. I put it into the text, even though I didn't reference it from the audio, because I honestly completely forgot. But yeah, so we have been doing the Dustwalkers for the last couple turns. Let's take a look at these. These guys are actually kind of interesting. They're very high HP for being undead, right? They're 25 HP. That's a lot. They are size 2, so you can pack 3 to a square. Classic undead scenarios, except they are basically heat versions of undead. So they have fire resistance rather than cold resistance. And I actually think that this is generally way, way better, right? Because of their high HP, it's almost impossible for Murdering Winter to kill them. right? So without Murdering Winter, or without cold resistance, Murdering Winter's still gonna fuck them up, but it's difficult or impossible for Murdering Winter to kill them. Whereas Flames from the Sky normally will destroy Long Dead, right? Because Long Dead have very little HP. These Dustwalkers have a lot of HP, and they have a shit ton of fire resistance. So not only would it not kill them, Flames from the Sky wouldn't kill them, right? Even if they got hit by it, they would have the HP to kind of like tank it for a while, and they have so much HP that Murdering Winter is not going to be that big of a deal. So really, really cool. They also have firepower, which is interesting in the right situations. Unfortunately for us, I think most of the world actually has either neutral scales or cold scales. As we kind of like look around, we can see it is early winter, and we are the only place on the map that really has any lack of snow, and that's basically indicative of either people have it being early winter kind of tends to mean that you would only have a little bit of cold, right? But we see that there's basically there's nowhere that doesn't have snow, which means that everyone is either rocking neutral scales or cold scales. So this is unlikely to really matter outside of our dominion, right? But firepower is, or not unlikely to matter. It's unlikely to be beneficial outside of our dominion. But that's interesting. It does matter, right? Firepower can make these guys a little bit better inside hot locations. I say a little bit better, but I mean, +3 on stats is actually very, very solid. And then they have a heat aura. So that is something that we do have to be cognizant of and be careful of. They don't have a great weapon either, but it's an okay weapon. They hit relatively hard. They actually have relatively high strength. And they do have some base protection. So these guys are kind of cool. The issue is that you can only have... We're only getting one of them per turn. So 20 turns from now, it turns 77. Or I guess not 20 turns from now. 17 turns from now, at turn 74, right? We will have a little stack of 20 of these guys. And maybe we'll be able to use them as something. Notably, they can't go underwater, right? I don't think. Yeah, they do not have... Because of their whole fiery nature... they can't go underwater like a lot of Long Dead can. But yeah, they're pretty cool. Pretty interesting little things. I think sites that allow you to summon unique units or relatively unique units are really, really cool, and there should be more of them. In point of fact, there's a mod that people have put me onto that basically takes away regular recruitment and makes it to where like every province has sites that have special recruits from all the different nations and things like that, and so you have this weird amalgamation of things that you're recruiting, and that sounds really fucking cool to me. But it's just neat, I think, to be able to summon things like this. I wish there was more interactivity with it, right? I wish you could do things like, oh, this is a Tower of the Seven Tombs. A Death Mage can enter it to summon a Dustwalker. Maybe you could do something, right, to upgrade it, right? Or give it more slots so that you can put another Death Mage in there to summon another Dustwalker, right? Etc., that type of situation. Or maybe you can do some sort of ritual to upgrade it, like where a Death Mage summons 2 Dustwalkers. Or a Death Mage summons a Dustwalker and a Dustwalker variant, right? Like, it's just, I think this is just extras, right? Like, this game has so much cool shit going on, even in vanilla, right? That literally, I think you can just take these types of things and just be like, what extra shit can we do? That's gonna make it cooler. Like, honestly. Yeah. Anyways, moving on. So that was the special recruits. Dustwalkers did that. We got a bunch of rituals this turn, including some things that are not site searching. So rituals for the turn. We got 1 Augury, 1 Auspex, 1 Voice Vapsu, 3 Arcane Probing, 1 Haruspex, and 2 Eyes of the Condor, actually. So, we have not really talked about Eyes of the Condor since the Nation Overview. But we are throwing Eyes of the Condor at CERN and at the Mighty Pillars, and we're probably going to throw Eyes of the Condor at Satala and maybe Vanheim over the course of the next couple turns. We've got quite a few air gems. We've got 9 coming in per turn. We're not really doing a lot with them at the moment. So, just to kind of refresh people, Eyes of the Condor is a unique Nazcan-only spell that has a range of 4, and it's basically just, what's it called? What? That's a thaumaturgy spell. It's a scrying spool, right? So it gives you the same information as a scry does. It's just that it's done with air instead of with water. It only costs 1 air gem out of the gates, but it does still work like scrying does, so you have to put additional air gems into it. So we're just tossing, I can't even remember what this is, turn... Research. Yeah, so we're just doing like a little 5-turn Eyes of the Condor at Mighty Pillars, at CERN. Next turn, we're probably going to do Satala and maybe Vanheim or maybe Turtle Glades. We're basically just trying to get some... So here's the other thing about scrying is I think scrying also sees glamored units. I'm not 100% sure on that. I would love to get some feedback from people in comments on that. But this is just we've been having some difficulty keeping scouts in locations, and I would like to move these scouts further into Vanheim territory so that we can see more of what's going on, but also, just trying to give ourselves good information for the coming. I don't use a lot of scrying. I should probably do scry stuff more frequently. But, it is what it is. Just kind of doodling around with some stuff at the moment. Aside from that, all of the other site searching things, again, we're just trying to hit all of our lands fully site searched by turn 60 kind of goal. And then we come to the forging section of the turn, and this is where we're going to talk about quite a bit of other things. So, 1 lightless lantern, 1 endless bag of wine, 1 dwarven hammer, 1 thistle mace, and 1 ring of wizardry. So this is why my astral pearls have dumped this turn, because a ring of wizardry costs a fucking metric shit ton. It is 80 fucking astral pearls. But with a ring of wizardry and a crystal coin, our god will be Astral 9. That does give us access to things, pretty big things, right? Most of those things we can't cast at the moment, right? We can't do Master Enslave, although that's Astral 8, right? Because that's super high thaumaturgy. We can't do Arcane Nexus, that's Astral 8, because that is Enchantment 9. And we can't do Wish, which is Astral 9, because that's Alteration 9. So we can't really do any of these things right now. But here's the other thing. Here's the other thing that we get out of having higher Astral in the immediacy. Dispels counts how high your paths are, right? And we're going to be trying to dispel Gift of Health. So this is part of our major contribution to the coming war with Vanheim. This was part of what I was going to be planning to do in the war against Vanheim originally. When they put up Gift of Health, I was talking about, okay, I can potentially take down Gift of Health. But then we got into that scenario where I wasn't fighting and Olm wasn't fighting, and I was going, I really want to do that for no reason. And then the other thing was I, you know, there's only 5 slots for global enchantments. I would love Well of Misery to be up there. If in a perfect world, I would be combining this, right, to one turn Dispel and then the next turn Well of Misery, with the hope that my Well of Misery hits first, right? So there's that. But regardless, that's not going to happen. Our research did not hit the threshold that we wanted it to hit. But we're still going to aim to Dispel Gift of Health. Right? If we can Dispel Gift of Health and we can get something up in its place, or if someone else, right, like we can just Dispel it again, right? We have the ability to hopefully diminish Vanheim's power in this coming war. This is expensive. This is what I was talking about at the very beginning, right? Like, one, having to pay 80 gems for the you know what? Technically, I don't have to pay 80 gems for the Ring of Wizardry for the Dispel. I'm paying 80 gems for the Ring of Wizardry for the investment in the future of having a Ring of Wizardry and being able to pass that around, right? Because that is going to be useful for other things, right? Because, like, right now, we don't really have the ability to cast Well of Misery, right? Well of Misery is a Death 6, right? We don't have a Death 6 caster. We have to have boosters, right? So how do we get our god boosted up to Death 6, right? Well, we put a skull helmet on it, which we have, and we put a skull staff on, and then we put a Ring of Wizardry. We could put a Ring of Sorcery, but I don't really believe in rings of sorcery. Right? They are 20 cheaper than a Ring of Wizardry, right? But they only affect sorceries, whereas wizardries affect all magic. So I almost always kind of feel the scenario of, like, unless you really just can't afford the Ring of Wizardry and you need the Ring of Sorcery, or if you can't cast, or if you can't forge the Ring of Wizardry and you need the Ring of Sorcery to forge into the Ring of Wizardry, you know, sure, bootstrap yourself into the scenario that you got to do. But basically, we're doing a Ring of Wizardry for future investments for things like Well of Misery, Ring of Wizardry for Well of Misery. My God. But also because it's going to give us a slight boost to our Dispel chances in the coming turns, etc., etc., yada yada. This does mean, and this hurts a lot, that we're basically going to go from having like a 200 bank of Astral Pearls and tank it down. And that feels hard to deal with for me. Because I have been thinking, we have such a high astral income. I have been thinking about making some sort of play towards Wish or towards Arcane Nexus. But this is one of those instances where I think I'm actually actively not going to be greedy. I think playing towards something like Nexus and or Wish, when we are so far away, we're at least close to Well of Misery, but we're so far away from Wish or Arcane Nexus that it would take, I say so far away from Arcane Nexus, we're as far away, almost as far away from Arcane Nexus as we are from Well of Misery, and no, because Well of Misery is 8, and Arcane Nexus is 9, and we're almost all the way through 6 already, so that's not true. That's not true. We're very, very far away from something like Arcane Nexus or Wish. And while it does hurt to take those concepts off the table, I do think that we need Huakas, right? So I want to keep summoning those every turn. I do think we need the Ring of Wizardry or a Ring of Sorcery, either, right? Though I think there's more value in the Wizardry for the long term. In order to do something like Well of Misery. And we're going to do a Dispel, so we might as well have that little extra oomph as we go into it, right? So, very, very sad about that, but that is what it is. We're gonna say bye-bye to our Astral Pearls and cry a little inside. But yeah, so coming turns, we're going to throw a Dispel at Gift of Health. And hopefully, shortly after, we will also be throwing up our Well of Misery. You might notice, right, that we're doing a pit stop in Evocation 6. I think I talked about this in the last turn. We are going to hit Evocation 6 for two main reasons. One is Mind Hunt. We can actually cast Mind Hunt relatively easily with Starshine Skullcaps and Crystal Coins on any of our Astral 2 mages. So we can become a Mind Hunt nation pretty easily, which is good, right? Because you want to be able to do something against that. And we have a counter to Feeble Mind, right? Like, if we get a bunch of valuable mages feeble-minded, we can send them to Mama Pacha. And it's slow to heal feeble-minded. It's difficult, right? But Mama Pacha can heal feeble-minded. So it's not it's not just a like, oh, well, that mage is that super, not super rare, I guess, but that worthwhile combat mage is now useless. No, we can actually fix it, right? So Mind Hunt is one of the main reasons that we're going here. Probably the main reason that we're pit stopping real quick. Flame Eruption is actually pretty nice for our Incas, so that's actually useful, but that's not really a reason that we're going there. Wrathful Skies, also another thing that we can actually pull out, but not really something that we're going for. Cleansing Water actually is relatively useful. Again, not really something that we're going for. The other thing that we're really going for is Wailing Winds, because Wailing Winds is actually something that we can cast with relative ease on any of our air random Hurons, or on some of our Royal Malquis, right? It's actually easier for us to do this on most of our Huron priests because they have better slots, slots for a hand, basically, to hold a Skull Staff. So, any Huron priest that is air random, we can give a Skull Staff and a Skull Face, or which is not a small investment, by the way, obviously, right? But we can throw that into the mix and have Wailing Winds. And mind hunting Van Heers and Van Jarls, and then maybe throwing a Wailing Winds into a battle is one of the only ways I see us being super, super useful in this coming war. So that's what we've got going on. That's the little plan. And yeah, so that's going to be it for the turn. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye, everybody. Hey, everybody. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, consider leaving a like, commenting, or subscribing. It really helps me out. If you'd like to see me live, head over to my Twitch at twitch.tv/thedistanthorizon.